Thanks for joining me. In this lesson we're going to talk about all the things you need to do for colouring hair. And before you pick up this and start looking at these lovely colours, well, you've got to know what's there, and that's what this lesson's about. What's in the hair before you start it. So before you pick up this and before you start mixing colour in these, well, this is the information you need to know. It's all about melanin. Deep inside the cortex, amongst the disulfide bonds and sitting between those polypeptide chains, is a natural pigment called melanin. Melanin is created by the body in the keratinized zone. Melanin is present in both hair and skin. Why do we have melanin? Melanin is produced as the body's defense against UV light. Basically, it's defense against the sun. Here's an old geezer who explains it very well.
Turns out that everybody on Earth is descended from people that live here in Africa. And then as groups of us moved around the world, the color of our skin had to change. And here's why. Our skin is where we make vitamin D. If you don't get enough ultraviolet, you don't get enough vitamin D. But if you get too much ultraviolet, then you break down your folates. You have to have it in perfect balance. And because the ultraviolet varies, the color of our skin varies. And that's it, everybody. That's why we have different colored skin.
The more UV light the body is exposed to, the more melanin the body produces. And this can be traced back to your genetic roots. As a way of explaining how UV light creates melanin, let's look at translucent fish and Uncle Ugo from that Disney movie. But first, let's have a look at the water, the deep, dark sea. You see, above the water we have sunlight, but under the water, past about 50 meters, the UV stops penetrating. What this means is that anything that lives down there doesn't need to produce melanin. It doesn't need a defense against the UV light of the sun. A bit like Uncle Ugo and the translucent fish. You see, humans aren't the only ones who produce melanin. Humans, and we have two types of melanin. We have euomelanin and pheomelanin. Euomelanin is made up of black and brown, and pheomelanin is made up of red and yellow. But obviously these are really big. What we're looking at when we look inside the hair, this is the size of the tip of a pin, and you need 10 of these to make one of these. So they're really microscopic. The one to watch out for is red. Red is the most dominant, and it packs the punch of this size, even though it's not the biggest. In fact, it's nowhere near the biggest. Think of yellow as the sand and the bigger rocks as the black. So where does this sit in the hair, and how do we see it? Well, melanin sits in the cortex, tucked up between the polypeptide chains. But understanding how we see it means a trip down the rainbow of rock and roll, if you like. Most of us see a rainbow. Here's one from 30,000 feet. And rarely it's the full rainbow. So how are rainbows made? Well, let's look at a simple answer. It's a refraction of light. And if we look at this picture, we can see the light enters a drop of water. It refracts through the water, and what we observe and see comes out the other end is a rainbow. Remember refraction, and remember the hair is translucent. And I promised you rock and roll, so let's look at this famous album cover. On the left side we see the light entering a pyramid. It travels through the pyramid and exits as a rainbow. And that's exactly what happens when we see hair colour on humans. Light travels into the hair. It refracts off the unique mix of melanin in every individual, and what we see on the other side is the natural hair colour of that individual. But what about the silver fox? As our bodies age, we slow down or stop producing melanin. This is what leads to grey hair. As the melanin slows down, we start to see the translucent hair shaft. When we see the peppering of grey, this is the melanin-rich hair and its colour refracting or reflecting through the clear hair shaft of the grey hair. There's also a rare group of people who have a condition called albinism. This means that the hair and skin and eyes have little or no colour. So what do we need to know as budding hairdressers? What do we need to learn? Well, let's look at this numbering guide for colour. The darker or the more depth the colour has, the hair has more melanin present in it. Now, it may be a smaller molecule, but it's far more powerful. Think blorange, or, if like me you have Irish roots, ginger day. Red is the most stubborn of molecules, and we deal with it every time we colour hair. If you're studying hairdressing, or even if you just enjoyed this video, pop a comment in the box down below, and what I want you to write is the 3 things that you've learned from this video and any questions you've got about what you've learned. Thanks for watching.